girls, and welcome to episode 130 of the FReality Podcast. I just wanted to show that I have a longer breath than Mike, so that's why I did it a little bit longer. This is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show that is live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can tune into the show live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. You can also check out the audio version, which is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Spotify. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe on our YouTube channel or smash that like button. Don't just hit it. That is lame. You need to smash it because that will really help us out. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback during the show, please put them in the chat and we'll try to answer them as many questions as we can. Okay. Now it's time for me to introduce all of you to the team. Well, I mean, like part of it, because unfortunately this week, half of the podcast has been forced to drop out for today. Luckily for all of you, the more interesting half is still here.
Yeah! Hashtag Android, screw you, Apple.
All right, this is gonna be our show now. It's gonna be our show.
Hard show.
All right. Here we go. I worked a lot on these introductions. Finally, first, if you ever find yourself stuck in a zombie apocalypse, you'll be happy to have this guy as your wingman. With an arsenal of weapons at his sides, this guy never loses his drive. It's none other than me, Rowdy. Yeah, screw you, Zimdog. I played Saints and Sinners as well, and I wanted to go first.
Nice.
Anyway, and then next, sometimes, you find yourself looking at something after which you decide, okay, that's enough internet for today. And yesterday was such a moment when I tuned into this guy's live streaming, showing that he is the main reason why in the 60s nobody cut their hair, causing all of the hippies to thrive. It's our favorite hairdresser, Zimtok5.
you tricky prankster fecker. I love it. That was beautiful. You made the first one rhyme with my name and everything. But hey, that was lovely. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, yesterday was.
How you doing, dude?
Yesterday was weird, man. Yesterday was weird. This is weird. Like I realized, around the world, like we've got all this like cancellations and stuff. People get nervous about the virus and stuff. And, it's like, oh, that's canceled. Well, this feckin' show ain't bloody canceled. We're just downgraded now to a romantic Skype call. So I figured, hey, I'd dress up for it because, not all heroes wear capes. But some heroes wear capes.
Some do. and just so people know, like both Nathy or Mike, as far as we know, are not dying. No. They are very much alive. Unfortunately, they just couldn't join today. I think Mike is buying a puppy, isn't he?
Mike is picking up a puppy, and we have a picture of that cute, adorable little pooch on screen now. This is from when Mike and his wife got the chance to actually hang out with the pup for the first time, and he's taking a long drive, I hear, to pick this little Toodle up. And the best part is that the puppy's going to live in his office for the next couple of days, and he's on his own for like the whole day with the puppy, which is why I couldn't join the show. Which I think, if you've ever been alone with a dog, I remember us getting a puppy boxer, right? And a cute little thing. Don't imagine Mike Tyson. I mean, boxer, the dog type. And this dog, like, my parents trapped it in my room because it was whining. And I was like, hey, okay, fine. I was like so excited because I was like, I get to have the puppy. Until I started to hear the most bassy, horrible noises that you've ever heard uttered. And this is when the darkness was like, the room was completely pitch dark. We'd had a little box in the corner for the dog. I'd heard all these horrible noises. I called out, I'm like, Mom, something's wrong. And she comes in, turns on the light. The dog has shit all over my room. All these brown pools of like doggy diarrhea. So I can only imagine that Mike's green screen may be in for a bit of a treatment. So get that cleaning brush ready, Mike. You might need it.
Not just say that, when we got our first dog back in my parents' place, I had like a rehearsal room where I practiced a lot with the band. Yeah. But there were like carpets on the floor, so the dog loved rolling itself into that carpet and like just like laying on the carpet because the floor was cold. And one day we were like rehearsing. I was like, what does that smell like? You know, like somebody has been farting in this room, like without me knowing, like, oh, it was awful. And after like 2 hours, like everyone was like, yeah, like I didn't fart. Like who's doing this? Who is doing this? And then we realized the dog like had like pretty much like shat like behind like one of the like amplifiers.
Oh,
and like the amplifier began like vibrating and like the poo was like, oh, it was gross.
But this is the introduction to family life. Like, I mean, you can be single, you can be a couple, and like those are relatively non-complex equations. But when you add anything else to that mix, life gets messy. And like, I look forward to hearing the war stories from Mike. I really do. So I wish him the best with his little pup. Yeah, it looks like they picked a cockapoo, I think is what they got. Which is,
I have no idea. I don't know what it is.
He looks like a cockapoo. That's all I'm going to say, you know? Yeah. The dog and Mike, but yeah. There you go.
All right. Well, we got a fun show for everyone out there today. We're going to be talking about the XR2 reference design from Qualcomm, the acquisition of Sanzaru Games, a new title that is coming from Oculus Studios, and we also have some hot releases that have been prepared for you by my partner in crime. And then finally, we'll also be giving our thoughts on the cancellations due to concerns regarding COVID-19. So bye-bye monetization. How long have you been in? 3 minutes?
Yeah, 3 minutes in, and I figured with that thumbnail we weren't going to get monetized anyway. So, you know, fuck it, embrace it. You know, yeah. COVID, Corona, blah. Yeah, there you go.
All right, but first let's talk about the highlights of our week, and starting with ZimTalk 5.
Ah, shit, I never thought it was going to be me. I'm so lucky. Yeah. I really appreciate it. Thank you for picking me. I feel great about this. Right. So, highlight of the week. This one. I beat Saints and Sinners. Finally. Beat Saints and Sinners.
I know.
that was definitely the pinnacle of my week because, and I'm gonna describe the game in the best way that I found possible, which is I feel like it's a really good, like, medium rare burger. Like, you have the beginning bit, which you're chewing through and you're like, I like it. And you get to the meaty bit and you're like, that's amazing. Unless you're a vegetarian, in which case, you know, maybe Saints and Sinners isn't for you. And then you get to the end bit and it kind of finishes off nicely. But I have and I'm not even going to go into the gripes of the game that I have. I have loved it, start to finish. And I think there's so little to complain about. The package for me from start to finish is like my second favorite all-time VR game because it behind Skyrim, of course, because that's behind
Skyrim. I was going to ask if it was Asgard's Wrath. But
Asgard's is next in my list.
Third time.
I've only done so. I mean, Asgard's is incredible. Like, people have been asking me, like, what's the best looking VR game? And a lot of people have been saying, like, Lone Echo, like the detail in Lone Echo, the single player title, is really good. But like, if you play Asgard's, and let me just say, there's a reason it's 130 gigabytes. Like, those textures, the fidelity, even the first bridge that you walk across. I am slack-jawed in so few things in VR. Like, I've seen it quite a bit at this stage, right? I'm almost at 1,000 games.
I think the reason why a lot of people say that it's like Lone Echo has a lot to do with like the facial animations. Yeah. Because like when I think about, I mean, it was one of the earlier titles as well. So it was like one of the first one that had that like graphical fidelity. So I think it like sticks a bit longer as well. But just like seeing like it was Liv, right? Liv's face and how human she was, that was really almost scary in a way that, like, you know, you could do something like that in virtual reality. So yeah, I mean, get why people say that is good looking. Like, the environments are less, like, definitely Asgard's Wrath wins there, like, hands down.
Exactly.
But in like facial animations, Lone Echo.
Yeah, and so Asgard's Wrath, like, it depends if you want to be led by the nose or not, right? So like for me, I tend to like games where you get to choose your own path. Like, you get to go in the window, or, you know, go in quiet, or go in hard, all that kind of stuff. Like, and I find that the replayability aspect of all the different towns that you or the city locations that you go into in Louisiana in Saints and Sinners, it just makes me want to play the game again and again. Like, I would absolutely consider playing the game from scratch, and I do that with almost nothing. Like, the achievement system makes you pining for those things and the secrets, and then unlocking. I don't want to spoil any of it for anybody, so all I can say is it's got the highest accolades for me. I think that the the fact that it doesn't tether you, it doesn't like say, no, you can't do that. You can just do the crazy stuff that you want to do. I've seen your lovely, GIFs or little videos where you're doing all your crazy like comedic puppeteering. I mean, it's not a puppet game, Rowdy. It's not just for puppets, but you take that to like the nth degree, and it's really funny because like people can do what they want in the game, but the story and the voice acting and the weapons and even the base that they give you, the secrets, the unlockables, the environment, the small details of like looking at the pond, like the swampy pond water, and the way they've done like the translucency and the like in the murky depth of that, just the small tiny details, like they put a lot of work into that game. There's so much polish. And so Saints and Sinners finishing that was like, it's like a good thing and a bad thing because I didn't want to finish. When you finish a good book, I didn't want to finish it. I wanted to keep playing.
It's funny that is your highlight of the week because, of course, since it's the only game that I played this week, it was my highlight as well. And what's even more funny is that I was going to say the exact same thing as you were. Like, you can take this is one of those games that you can take to the extreme. Like, you can just play the storyline and be done with it. Yeah. But you can do so much more with this game. Like the stuff that I went on a date with like a zombie. You could just do that. If you need to play it out, and you need to you need to mess around. But like the game allows you to do that. I actually like took a zombie, like forced it into a chair, and I put like candles on the table to have like a candlelight dinner. But you can do all of those kind of things and set up a scene to like contribute to something like that. And I think that is so amazing. Funny. That allows that like creative freedom, even though it's totally not the point of the game. Like everything I've done in the entire video had nothing to do with the storyline whatsoever. Yeah. But it allows that creative freedom, and I really appreciate that. And it's funny for me to say that because I'm someone who always says like, I want to play something solely for the story. And I have no doubt that the story is good. But because VR is such like an open medium, it's so easy to make your own kind of story, which is really fun to do. And that's also one of the reasons why I'm such an advocate of like good recording options in a game. Like what they do in Blade and Sorcery is still so brilliant with like the multiple camera angles and multiple kinds of view that you can get. Yeah. And I'd love for something like that to become standard in a VR game as well. Yeah. Because the amount of stuff that you could do, then you could like shoot an entire movie.
Exactly.
With a certain budget, like making really cool kind of things.
Oh man, Saints and Sinners would be brilliant for that. And the thing that I think about, like finishing Saints and Sinners, is very simple math, right? It's like, oh, this is single player. Now pivot to multiplayer, please. Like, what if in that world? And I'm really interested in emerging gameplay. It makes me feel alive to play those games. Like when I played DayZ at first, and I remember my wife playing DayZ and getting like really upset because someone was hunting her, like for her couple of cans of beans or whatever. And it was like, so it gets so inside you, but it gives you that experience, at least virtualized, of like, what is it like to go through a survival scenario and how terrifying is that? And like scrounging for bits and stuff. And I can't wait until they take a game with that amount of polish and expand it to be like, all the NPCs are just people. And see the communities that build up and allow people to trade for goods. And if you die, you restart as a random, survivor or something. I can't wait to see that. But I think it's no mistake that we both ended up, saying the same thing, because, and this is 5 weeks after release. Like this is not, it didn't just, or longer than that actually now, right? It dropped before Christmas. Or no, January? I can't even remember. Weeks are flying by. I don't know what the exact release date is. It's such a fantastic all-around title, and I can get it. Some people are not into violence. Some people don't like taking down other people, and sometimes the game kind of forces you into things that maybe you shouldn't do. So to some extent, there's some linearity to it. But it's one of the more open-pan VR games of this caliber that I've had the pleasure of playing, and I just have to give it the highest accolades. And I know loads of people are going to be like, Zim, why the feck is Skyrim at the top of your list? And I don't generally think of VR games as like a list of the top 10 or top 5, but this is definitely, it's just way, way up there because it's such a well-polished title.
Yeah, it's just like you said, like the creative freedom that you have for like, doing something that you want. You can go in through the window, you can, climb up a rain pipe, you can just bust through the door and all those kind of things. And that just reminds me of like, if you remember, like there was like, I don't know if people still do it, but it used to be very popular with like Fallout and Fallout 3. where people would just like make their own stories completely, with lore and everything, and you could like mod that in the game. But you also had like very cinematic cameras that you can like create. But imagine like doing these kind of things in virtual reality later on. They're like just the options are like even wider. You could do like facial interaction. You could do hand gestures. There's so much you can do.
The best thing about that, like from a videographer's perspective, right? You could shoot the film, and because it's volumetrically already captured and all that detail's already stored, you could take, say we shot The Matrix in VR, right? In a VR game. We shot The Matrix, and then we come back, someone comes back 5 years later and decides, I want to change which way the story went. And they can do that because the engine's there, it's all rendered, it's just about the workflow, and they could piece it up. And aside from the voice acting, which would have to be human, wouldn't have to be human. I mean, things are progressing with deepfakes quite a bit. So I think
what you're saying, actors will be without a job fairly soon.
To be fair, most of us are going to be without a job fairly soon, because that's the whole point. For those of us still left, of course. We got to prepare for the zombie apocalypse, that's coming. So
of course. I asked the chat as well what they've been playing this week. We have Megan Mason, who played Freediver and some Beat Saber and some more Gadgeteer. If you need any tips for that, there's one person on this podcast that has some great experience with that. We have Theyve.130, who played Synthriser. Theyve the Psycho, as Nathan always says. Yeah. He played Ghost Giant, O-Shape, and Freediver. He had a pretty fun week.
Oh man! Can I chip in there on Ghost Giant? Because my daughter was playing Ghost Giant, and this is something that I think all devs should do, and it's what I call the 5-year-old test. If a 5-year-old can get from the start of your game to playing your game successfully, you've won on your UX, on your user interface. If they can't, you lose. And unfortunately, Ghost Giant loses because the option to scale up and down, a lot of it's text. And then it's quite confusing in terms of the handle and what you do with your big Gorby Ghost Giant fingers. Okay. And what my daughter did, she made it so that we couldn't even fix the game because she grabbed the handle for resizing, jammed it to the end, let go. So we were like super tall in the quest. And then, there was I reset the game and everything, and there was nothing we could do. It was literally uninstall, reinstall. It was a joke. So I definitely recommend developers to do the 5-year-old test before doing that. And you can even just take a friend of yours who has a 5-year-old's mentality. That works too.
Or just ask Nathy. That's fine too.
He's not here to defend himself.
Yes!
Free reign. He's like our personal pinata. I love it.
No, he turned 7 last week, I think so.
Oh, Jesus.
And then we still have a gaming science theater who went to an educational tech conference. We didn't play VR this past week, but he has seen the future of VR in education. GNVRS Gaming played No Man's Sky and Beat Saber. And I'll highlight one more. That was Paint Pros Colorado, who says, Asgard's is beautiful.
Yeah. And that's really why, well, aside from the drive space, that's also why I want to play it. Like, I want to play it, but like, February's done, man. I'm sad. This was my month to finish all my games. I got Boneworks done. I've got Saints and Sinners done. A few other indie titles, and then like that's it. Months is over. Although I have to say, when I looked at the calendar today, I got really weirded out. I forgot that February 29th was an actual legitimate date. It's been so many years. I was like, I had to take a spit take at my calendar because I was like, what? That's not real. It was so fun. Oh man. Anyway. Yeah.
Too much time in VR.
Too much time in VR, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, let's jump into a little bit of news. And the first bit of news is about the XR2 reference design. So Qualcomm has revealed the reference design for its new VR and AR platform. The headset offers a rough guide for building with the Snapdragon XR2, which is a 5G-enabled chipset designed for VR or AR hardware. Now, sources are suggesting that this is a modified Snapdragon 865 with an image processor. For example, the Oculus Quest uses a Snapdragon 835. Now, this Qualcomm XR2 looks a lot like the earlier XR1 reference design, but it can already show off some of the XR2 new capabilities, such as support for the 5G networks and also up to 7 different cameras. But it still uses a 2K display panel for each eye instead of the maximum 3K resolution for which will ultimately be in the XR2. Now, the interesting bit is that this latest processor and the reference design is set to be capable of split rendering over the 5G wireless connection. And this means that basically some of the work will be done in the headset while the other part will be done remotely, for example, a cell tower, to harness bigger processing powers. In theory, this would then allow a smaller wireless VR headset to offer the visuals we would then expect from, for example, a high-end PC, but then over a wired connection. So Qualcomm is not the only company to do this, because I think we highlighted the Pico Neo 2 a little while ago as well, and they're also saying that they are planning to support this functionality. I didn't find like a release date or anything on something like this, but I don't think that this will be fairly soon. I think that, if we see a Quest 2, I would expect that they would be using this chipset though.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the buzz, I guess, around this is like you've got so many different people chomping at the bit for the next iteration. As I said before, I totally expect to see something like this year announced. Whether or not it'll drop, I know you're cynical about that, but I think that. What was that company? I'm trying to remember the one that we were going on about 3-4 weeks ago that is in California, and they're going to use this reference design and launch. Kind of like a competitor to the Magic Leap. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but there was a startup who just came on the scene in 2020 and was looking quite promising. So there are a couple of Quest competitors.
Wasn't it from that French company? I believe it was the French company. I forgot the name as well, but it was a French company, I think, that were planning on using this chipset already but I think they were planning on using the Snapdragon 835, the 865. But I don't know if they're actually planning on using the XR2 reference design.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting looking headset. It's got a very smooth curve to it, although it makes me look, it looks a little Ray Charles in terms of its kind of flat form factor. But I guess reference designs are not meant to look sexy. They're just meant to look kind of simple, plain.
But yeah, I don't know. I do think that if we see a new headset, it will likely be more like improvements in terms of like the controller rather than in improvements in like, I just don't see this being implemented already into a new headset so early this year. Yeah. I think it would be rather like next year is a more plausible kind of time frame.
And the funny thing is when you mention something like this, I haven't seen anything that talks about the controllers for the headset. And so from that, I assume they are maybe looking at, using the cameras in the same way that the Quest does, just for hand controls.
Yeah, because this chipset also like allows for more cameras. So I would assume that, and we've already seen demos of that being used as well, where like, for example, behind the back tracking is like more optimized so that if something like obstructs like the view, that you don't get like any kind of drift or something like that. So I think improvements in that can be made, but I don't think if they're enough to be like, it's the next generation of VR headsets. You can now move your controller behind your back and pick it up with your other hand. Look, and I still have it.
Oh, and guess what? It's got a self-regenerating battery. You just give it a shake, like that ever-ready flashlight in Saints and Sinners. But no, I actually found, and there aren't many games that have shown off the limitations of the inside-out tracking that's present on the Rift S and the Quest. But Saints and Sinners, I have noticed it. I don't know if you have, but
I think it also has to do with that your entire arms are attached to it. So you have like a more like a, how would I say it, like a spaghetti arms kind of feeling. I had that a lot with the gun, that it feels a little bit more like spaghetti-like because
spaghetti
my arms,
guns. Maybe you need to work out a little more. I know I do. But no, I was finding that like if you were taking like a katana or something, and anything where you would draw behind your back, and then all of a sudden, ramp up your speed and like slice fast, that it would catch up a little bit too late. Or if I'm trying to stab something in the eye, right, from a withdrawn position, that I wouldn't always land it. But if I held it kind of where I knew the camera could see it and then stabbed, it was fine. So I had to modify my gameplay, just tweaked it a little bit, and it was like past that barrier of like, I'm satisfied, So when people ask me generally, like Quest or Rift asks, like, how's the tracking? My answer is generally like totally solid, no problem. And the only caveat to that I have to say now is weapon tracking in Saints and Sinners jumps every so often.
Yeah.
So that's that.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, well, the next bit of news is about Facebook and an update concerning the Oculus Link. So until this week's release, in order to use Link, both your Quest and your Rift software had to be at the exact same version. Now, the problem with this was that Oculus performs automatic updates and does not let the user roll back. And typically, these updates to Quest headsets occur over a period of several days. So prior to this change, Quest owners could be stuck in a situation where they are waiting for their software to update in order to use PC VR games again with their headset because their version levels wouldn't match. But with the new version 14 release, this restriction is a little bit relaxed in that you can now have more than one, at most one version number away from the other. So for example, Rift software version 14 will work with the Quest on version 13. But not with, for example, 15. But normally the space at which like those updates are being rolled out should match that ultimately.
I can see why that would cause users pain. Now they've shifted it to developer pain, I suppose, because otherwise how's that going to work? It's like we need to flash it out. Oh, quick, change versions twice. Like I just don't see how that fix actually functions. It's really weird. And then the third thing is like when it comes to Oculus Link, there's a lot of people using it. Is my kind of feel of it. I don't personally, but I'm glad they're updating and soldiering ahead because I actually think it's one of their most it's their strongest unique selling points are software updates, and we'll talk a little bit more about some more updates like that a bit later on too. But do you find yourself using Link at all, Rowdy?
No, I have never even used it.
You're like not much Quest DIY user, right? Like
no,
you're not
at all.
You know what I wish they would do though? I wish they would take the Oculus Quest's software and allow power users, to manually download, like you would a firmware update, and flash your device. Because like when you're sitting there, I mean, I've sat there so many evenings, like hugging, cradling my Quest, rocking back and forth, nervously wondering if it's going to be okay by the morning. And never, like almost never does it actually wake up with the version updated. No matter what I do voodoo, all kinds of weird shit in this room, but no, nothing. It just doesn't patch.
Yeah, I also find it, I mean, I understand that they want to, keep a controlled environment regarding the updates and that every device is updated, ultimately. But at the same time, like, it's 2020, like people should be able to like choose which kind of updates that they want to, if they want to be like,
I identify as version 15.
No, but I mean, like that you could at least say like, I want to be updated at this specific date, or you could like, choose like what date the update occurs within like a time frame of, for example, a week. Yeah. That you like, for example, pre-download them and then install them within like a week time frame or something like that. I think that would be a far better solution than doing this, I think. But
I don't know. It seems weird to me. It kind of feels like a backwards step to a degree. I mean, I'm glad people who are pissed off at this are happy about it, but it seems like it causes more problems. I don't know. For developers,
I don't know either.
For developers, not
maybe. I mean, I don't think that the updates itself will cause problems. I think it's rather like the software from Oculus in itself that is less restrictive.
Is less restrictive. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I mean, I don't mean game developers. I mean, from a platform perspective, the people behind Oculus platform patches now have to push 2 patches to ensure that connectivity. So I would love if someone could break down how that works, because I do not understand how they are not causing a problem.
What they mean is that the version software will update automatically, but there could be, for example, 3 or 4 days in between when your Rift software updates or when your Quest software updates. But those 3 or 4 days, you will not be able to use your Quest because it's still on the previous version compared to your Rift software.
Okay, you're
But
helping
this
me
now
make
fixes that.
Right. Okay, got it. So
Because
you can receive.
it goes one version back.
Yeah. Okay. So no. So I misunderstood this. I thought we were talking about. So for instance, say there's a version 15 out and a version 16. I thought that this patch was enabling it so that there was an enforced backwards compatibility between one patch. That's not the case. Yeah, I get it now.
I don't think that is the case. No, I don't exactly know how the compatibility works between versions, but it's more like a relaxation of the restriction on the usage of the headset, I think.
Cool. Yeah. Cool.
Right. Next bit of news is from Drifter Entertainment, which is an independent games developer based in Seattle, and they have announced their 4th VR game. The others being Gunheart, Rise of the Gunters, Robo Recall, and now also Lies Beneath. This is a survival horror game that is inspired by the likes of Resident Evil and Silent Hill. Lies Beneath stands out amongst the rest with its Japanese horror comic inspired art style. And I have to say, like, I watched the trailer, it looks very cool. I really like this art style.
Yeah. No, it looks so I don't know if cell shaded is the right term, but I guess it's kind of cell shaded with shadows and lighting effects.
Yeah. Have you ever played, I don't know if this is very popular, but it was called 13.
Yeah, 13.
With, like, Roman numbers.
It looks exactly like 13.
Exactly like that, right? But then
XIII.
in a horror style. Yeah. I love that comic as well.
But have you played any, so there was a VR game or two like this, which was basically living comic books where you would see inside, the comic book as it was playing out. Like, what was that game by, just trying to think, not High Energy, High Force. I forget the name now. But it was a strategy game where you had the card, and within the card borders, you could see like a diorama, like a little character moving around. Dragon Force.
Okay.
Dragon Force?
Never played that. But
Yeah. I think it's Dragon Force. It's been so long now. But yeah, that was a really cool concept. And then there were some like indie style comic book emergent like VR experiences that you could do that were all really short. Like none of them were more than like 14 or 20 page comic books, but it looked a lot like this. But this looks a lot more like picking up from, I would call it the Carmack like Windows Bedrock release, where you could you'd be looking at a TV and then you press a button and you'd go into VR. And if you felt sick, you could come out of VR again. Yeah, that's what this looks like. This looks like they're really playing with that whole kind of pancake versus immersion and allowing the evil creatures within to come at you. Looks great.
I think what is cool about this as well, that these kind of like art styles really like withstand like the tooth of time. Like I could, for example, still like play games like 13 right now just because it's in that specific art style. I think Super Hot and Pistol Whip all have that as well, because it's like that kind of like artsy, abstract kind of art style.
Yeah.
This does that with like a comic book style. Like the graphics in like 5 years from now will probably still look great because it's intended to look like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So I do think that games like this are very smart to be developed because they're probably, they go a long way.
There's another reason, performance. This is another one of the main factors. Like performance is really good. They age well. They look good. And actually the immersion, you'd think, oh, you're striving away from realism. But actually there's something about that kind of uncanny valley effect that when you stay away from looking ultra realistic, it's easier for your brain to accept, the kind of realism that's presented, right? So I think it's cool because being in a different environment, even if it's all like that. I mean, Borderlands was like that. Nathan last week talked about Jet Set Radio or Parappa the Rappa, and it was like these games.
It's still like, good to play now.
Yeah, exactly. They hold up, and the thing is, 10 years from now, they'll still look decent, and you could just kind of pick it up, shift it platforms, and release your IP again. And it doesn't have to, go 20-fold in terms of the graphical fidelity.
No,
so
that's true.
Yeah.
So
I'm really looking forward to that one. And man, they're the ones behind Robo Recall. That means we're in for a ride.
Indeed. Yeah. So it's been built up from the ground up for the Oculus Quest and Oculus Rift platform. And they say that it takes full advantage of VR's ability to transport the player to another world. So they are going for an immersive title, I would say.
Can I translate to fuck the player over. It's like they're gonna scare the shit out of us. I know it.
Definitely.
I love horror though. Like for those who aren't horror players, I'll just make a short pitch. Like if you're not a horror player, give it a chance in VR. Even if you're a complete wuss or whatever, just like give it a chance. I know it's scary. I know you're in the world, and like I thought I would be so terrified. It gives you such adrenaline. Like it really gives you adrenaline. Yes, you're terrified, and sometimes you'll be in a moment where you're like, I need to take this headset off. But the adrenaline factor is really good for anyone. I'm not a thrill seeker, but I ended up liking VR games after horror VR games after a while playing them.
The story sounds very interesting as well. Like they've released like a little statement that is like the premise of the game, and they say something has gone horribly wrong in the sleepy town of Slumber, Alaska. Now, returning college student May must find to save her father and her sanity, okay, from the terrifying townsfolk and creepy creatures infecting her hometown. Experience a living comic book full of frightful scenarios as you uncover the secrets of Slumber and May's past. With a full arsenal of melee and ranged weapons, like it takes a little bit of a turn then, May will fight monsters across the menacing remnants of her hometown. Along the way, she'll need to solve puzzles in her surroundings and find lore objects that uncover hidden truths. Lies Beneath features several difficulty levels and comfort options, so you can tailor the experience to your preference. It comes out for Quest on March 31st. And it's a Quest exclusive because it comes out on Rift 2 weeks later on April 14th.
Okay. And that's fine. Like I actually don't mind when they give priority to, if it's like 2 to 4 weeks preference, totally fine. Totally fine. When it's a year, you better be giving them a sack of cash. You know, it's like, but and I'm kind of less okay with that because we've seen it on a few platforms. I can't remember now the title from the last couple of weeks we talked about, but there was something that dropped on Theyve with a 1 month like restriction. It's like, who cares? It's a month, you know? Unless it's a big hitting title, no one's going to notice. Yeah. They're going to blink, it'll go by, it'll be available. There's no reason to moan about it. So
I found it interesting as well that, I mean, we do have quite a lot of VR horror games already, but since Wilson's Heart, I don't think we've seen another one in this genre, at least, coming from Oculus Studios.
Sorry, Gunheart, did you say?
No, Wilson's Heart. Since Wilson's Heart.
Wilson's Heart.
Oh yeah, I consider that a horror title.
Oh,
right?
It's horror. Oh, yeah, it's horror.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So it's like, yeah. I think it's the first one for the Oculus Quest in its entirety. Not the horror title in general, but at least one coming from Oculus Studios. And the quality that they deliver is usually, quite high.
I can't tell you a bad Oculus Studios title. Whoever's their QA department are doing a damn good job because this is multiple years now, and that will mean personnel have changed hands, and it means their standards, whatever that book of standards is serving them well. Yeah, because I always think well of an Oculus Studios title when I see it. I agree.
Yeah. It looks interesting. I'm not so sure if my neighbors will like it though. Last time I tried a horror game, they called the police because they were 100% sure that they heard the squeals of a pig that was being butchered in my apartment. Anyway,
was that you, or were you projecting on speakers?
No comment.
Love it. I love it. I love that. That's great.
All right, next bit of news. About 5 months ago, Dreadholes was released on the Quest, and a friend of our show, Gamertag TV, he managed to interview Sergio Hildago from White Door, who stated that Dreadholes is currently selling more than all of its other versions combined at this very moment. So Dreadholes was apparently one of the first VR games to launch on a commercial headset all the way back in 2015. I know that you're a big fan, right, Sim?
I used to use this as a paid torture in my stream, and my stream subjected me once to, I think it was 36 straight runs of Dreadholes, which we used to have on a timer of about 7 minutes. You do the math. That was a feck ton. It was like 6 hours of Dreadholes.
On which headset did you originally play that on? Was it on the CV1?
No, DK2. DK2, the original, and then they did the kind of re-release on the Rift and then of course it dropped on, dropped later. But yeah, that's cool.
But it dropped on a lot of the mobile headset as well, right? Like the Samsung Gear.
Yeah, at first the update first came to Gear, which I was kind of miffed about because I was like, come on, man, do this thing. Like, anyway.
It has apparently already amassed over 4,000 user reviews on the Oculus Store. And it's fairly early released as well on the PSVR and just regular PC VR on the Steam.
So I think the really cool thing that stood up, I mean, there's only 2 games that I find really do horror right in VR, and that's Dreadhalls and Monstrum. And unfortunately, like Monstrum, Junkfish Studios, who are here in Scotland, confirm they're not doing VR support for the sequel that they're working on. And Dreadhalls, I just think that this like procedural horror thing where you don't know what's around the corner, you don't know the maze you're walking through. Like the first time I did it, I was like, what they did was they took the Windows 95 like default, red brick maze screensaver, and they just put bad things in that and put you into VR. Like that was the premise of the game for the first one.
It's just like those those gargoyles or like weeping angels kind of stuff. Like it's that kind of stuff. Just that's not good for your sanity. You can say what you want, but that's not good for you.
And for the longest time, like Sergio, I've been like following his work really closely, and he's been teasing out various bits and pieces, like back when he was doing new things. And like I would have the smallest psychotic breakdowns because I would be like playing the game, and I'd be like, "Did he patch that in? Is there something new? Is that a new scream? I don't think I've heard that before." And like you'd psych yourself out. So literally for like this, the gray in my beard, I am pretty sure comes from Dreadhalls, from doing I've probably done more than 500 hours of Dreadhalls. It's stupid. Like,
wow.
Yeah. Silly.
You'll be happy to hear then that they're also working on a new title. It's called Cosmophobia, and this is a roguelike, creepy, objective-based exploration game. And apparently the game also comes with a free pair of brown pants.
Does it now? Wow. Okay.
Well, I hope it does, because I'll for sure will need one of those.
Cosmophobia, huh? Yeah, he teased some, I think it was like a tablet or something like that a couple of months ago. I think it was around October, and I was getting really excited because Sergio Hidalgo's work, like I've been following it for a while, and I was like, oh man, now he's making a sci-fi game. Like I have no idea if it was going to be single player, or if he's going to follow kind of a Dreadhall style, but yeah, this is looking this is reminding me of the persistence on PlayStation VR.
Yeah, I was just about to say, and the thing about these kind of like games, like because they're roguelike, like one of the game mechanics that's kind of built in is that you're kind of intended to die in order to progress, or like, to become better. But like in a horror game, that becomes so much worse, like because the ways that you die there are often not like the most pleasant kind of ways, or like you just scared shit out of yourself. Like I don't know, like I really don't want to be the first guy to die with a VR headset on playing a horror game,
And the thing is, like, I love that they didn't just like in a good in a good trailer for like a horror film, you don't expose the bad dudes, right? And they flash at the very last second a little guy when you open one of those container doors in the trailer, and it looks like one of the bad things out of the forest, like the kind of very fleshy creatures in the forest that you meet in the caves. So I don't...
The ones that like put butter all over their body because they like shine so much, right?
Yes. Well, I don't know if that's an Unreal Engine game, but I call it the Unreal Engine Sheen because I didn't know that Saints and Sinners was done in the Unreal Engine either. I only just learned that when I was looking through the credits. And I was like, damn, they did a good job with Unreal to turn out that
oily.
They don't look oily, yeah.
They didn't all go to a massage saloon right before making this game.
But I mean, so are you gonna play this?
No comments.
Come on, Piggy.
I don't know, like I'm so bad at these kind of games. I mean, not bad, but like I need to like mentally prepare myself before I go into this kind of game. Like I once did that. I think I did it with Resident Evil. A lot of people said, "Oh, this is not that scary." I literally had to like prepare myself since like since I got up in the morning. Was like, okay, we're gonna do this now. Yeah, we're gonna do this. Yeah, we're gonna wait a couple. We're gonna eat something. Make sure your stomach is full. Make sure this and that. Okay, and then we're gonna do this. And I played it and it was all right. But at the same time, I was like, oh, I'm happy it's over. I'm happy to record this video.
Yeah. I know that feeling as well. It's a really weird thing, but it's like that feeling when, and I don't dream much anymore as an adult. I don't know why. But when I was a kid or a teenager, and you'd be trapped in a nightmare, and you become lucid, like you're aware you're in the nightmare, but it won't let you out. Like you can't wake up, and you're stuck in the nightmare, and that is like one of the worst, most entrapping feelings. And actually, to an extent, that's pretty much what VR horror is. I know a lot of people like nope out and they whip the headset off or whatever. But if you plow through that, you get to that lovely feeling of like, I really don't want to be doing this right now. Like I do not. All the senses in your body are like, no. Yeah. And I think it makes for amazing entertainment. So I would happily watch you. Ready? Let's put that in the calendar.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Anyway, next bit of news. So Facebook has acquired Sanzaru Games, adding them also to the line of Oculus Studios. And Sanzaru Games is actually known for a variety of Oculus-funded VR titles, such as Ripcoil.
Okay.
Remember that one?
Yes.
VR Sports Challenge. Yep. Marvel Powers United. I think we all remember that one.
What a classic gem.
Not in the most positive way. But, of course, always, if it's not the best VR game of 2019, Asgard's Wrath.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's...
If it's not the best one, then it's probably one of the best ones.
Yeah, I think it's almost inarguably, like, the best... It's almost, like, again, if I had to take a popular vote of what I hear from other people... everyone around the podcast, other podcasts who do VR, Asgard's is just sitting on top. And it's funny because being restricted on the Oculus platform means that, PlayStation VR people don't know what it is. Anyone who's not in the Oculus ecosystem.
Like we said a couple of weeks ago, we see that the share that Oculus is having on the VR market is like growing and growing and growing. They're now leading on the Steam VR markets. They almost have the entire Oculus store, the Oculus Quest store. So, I mean... like the market share that Oculus is having is like eating up into like the other PC VR headsets, I think. not only in the PC VR headset, but also in the developers apparently, because they managed to acquire them. But the development group that joins Oculus Studios will be still an independently operated studio out of their current offices in the United States and Canada. Now, I don't think this is really a surprise considering they recently also acquired Beat Games. But it does seem like there's a little bit of a competition going on between like Facebook and Sony. I think Sony purchased in late December Insomniac Games, which we know from Stormlands. In a way, I guess that makes sense because both of these companies invest very heavily in like large projects from like all of these VR studios, and thereby honing their skills again in virtual reality development of games. And if then a competitor comes and snatches up all of that talent for their own virtual reality platform, I think they probably say that's a bad return on the initial investment that they put in there. I do think that Facebook was quite upset that Insomniac, got purchased.
Yeah.
Because of course they don't just pay for the game, but they also pay for like getting the resources, the proper training, and like the development of the game, and all that talent that acquires that kind of skill is now working for a different company.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's difficult because it's hard to pin resources and talent down as well, right? But when that package goes, it is the people that matter. It's the people, it's the skill, it's the knowledge of how to do things. And when that all sets sail, as you said, and you've been funding it, I think you're absolutely right. In that seat, I would be butthurt. I would be like, let's go buy up some studios.
Before someone else
does, right? Like
that's the reasoning behind it. I do wonder how that works though. I can already imagine like Mark Zuckerberg like walking into the office with like just as many lawyers as he has security guards, and throws down a briefcase with like unmarked $100 bills on the table and saying, "This is where that comes from," and then he just like leaves. Like how does that work? Like
this is how corporate acquisitions work in your mind, just like briefcases of money.
That's how I would do it if I was like the owner of Facebook.
Helicopters, SWAT teams blasting through skyscraper windows.
You know how there's like when you have those wrestling matches and the guy comes like down with like the music blasting? I would just have that wherever I come, the entire town where I come in, and some guy like needs to remove my cape then. Like,
yeah, see, like I said, that. Some heroes wear capes. But in terms of the news, like in terms of Facebook just bought, right, they've got Beat Games, they've got Sanzaru. I think this is generally good because they will act as a shield and a kind of like a warm blanket of funding. The thing that happens that I think a lot of people don't realize in smaller indie development studios is you do get resource cannibalization from studio to studio sometimes. You also get, the reliance on a project. So if you're too small, that horrible kind of curve and the financial planning that goes alongside, hey, we've got a cash injection, and kind of planning to level that off with a tail to make sure that even if your next thing doesn't work out, you can still pay your people and you don't have to close your doors down.
I think that is the major thing. There's like a little bit of like carefree development that they're allowed to do their thing within like the concept of, Facebook and within the concept of Oculus. Of course, everything needs to be approved, I guess, to a certain degree. But at the same time, it's like, they pretty much have the financial freedom to develop what they want at the speed that they wanted to do.
Well, exactly. And that's what would convince me if I was sitting in one of those studios to accept. Now, one of the things that I would be swinging me the other direction is I'd say, great, we're going to operate independently just like Oculus. Well, look what you did to the Oculus founders. You swung in and is there a single head left? Unfortunately, over time, when you have a difference in alignment of corporate mantra, strategy, all that, you're going to have literally directors within the company pulling in different directions. And you have to take a choice which way you're going to go. And in the end, Papa's going to win, I think. So, look, Facebook's an engine. If you would have told me 10 years ago, someone would take a social platform and be doing, an initial public offering and going public with a company within whatever that was, 6, 7, 8 years, and then be one of the most powerful companies on the planet, it's like, I can't even believe that's profitable. Like, what do they make? You make space for people to advertise. Like, that's all you're doing. I mean, that's the core of your business. If you've ever read, like, into Facebook and their strategies. Now they've got other things. They've obviously gone down the kind of Google path of let's gather as much data as possible. And I'll be honest, I totally look at my Quest that way. Every time I pick it up, what that thing is doing is it's remembering the layout of my house. It's checking what I'm doing, already. And the funny thing is, like, that data is powerful and it will help them strategize for the future. And at the moment, it's collecting it away and you kind of signed up to it and don't necessarily care. And Google doesn't have that. Google doesn't have a headset that's in your house and doing that. What it has is it's got the assistant. Home, though. Yeah, it's got the assistant, the mobile stuff. It's just listening to you the whole time. What's he saying? Oh, he really likes pizza.
But I'm pretty sure that Google can have a pretty good idea of like if you have like 6 Google Nests or whatever they're called, that they're pretty sure that you have like at least 6 rooms or something like that. Like I do think that they can estimate a lot from that kind.
They're smarter than that, actually. You know what they can do, which is really cool. If you have Wi-Fi devices, because of their network strength displacement from one another, you can actually discern distance.
Was thinking already. Yeah.
So you can actually 3D model with those 6 devices around your house. It's really kind of, if you get into it, how much knowledge you can gain from inference is an enormous amount. Yeah, metadata, exactly. So anyway, it's all coming. This isn't meant to scare anybody. It's just like, if you don't know that this is possible, it's just like turn the switch on in your head and go like, oh yeah, it happens. So, but like a funny story about that, I got a Google Home device and I've unplugged it since because I just don't feel comfortable listening to me the whole time. Yeah, but the thing is, there's no getting away from a phone. Like, that's listening to you the whole time as well. So it's just like, you have to adopt it to some extent, but I don't know, it's weird. I was just like, this thing that was playing YouTube music for me is just not, it's not worth the balance. I'm like, no, sorry, Google, you can't have another node in my house. Anyway.
All right. Well, next up is it's not an episode of the FReality Podcast if we don't talk about whether Half-Life 3 is coming or if we don't make Zimtalk 5 cry because Left 4 Dead is still not coming.
Hey, you didn't have to say that, you fucking tool. Come on.
With Half-Life Alyx now less than a month away, the excitement is real. So it's actually so real that you can now offer on an exclusive tour of the Valve headquarters, including a VR demonstration with apparently Half-Life Alyx. Those interested can submit their bid via Charity Buzz, and the current estimated value is $2,500, but bidding begins at roughly $500. Now, the winner and 3 of their choosing will then travel to Bellevue, Washington for a 1-hour tour. It's quite short, actually, 1 hour for the entire Valve.
And how much money?
Well, bidding starts at $500, and the current estimated value is $2,500.
Wow, Jesus.
I mean, I could imagine the price if Half-Life Alyx wasn't released yet, right? Then I could imagine, but I'll come to that a little bit later.
I don't know. I kind of feel like if I had the cash, to play it early,
You'll also be able to meet Lawrence Yang, who is a user experience designer at Valve Software in Bellevue, Washington. And at Valve, he has worked on virtual reality software and hardware, features for Steam, and also Game Team. And you know what, Zim?
What?
Although there's only 2 of us here, normally there are 4 of us. And I think we consider each other as friends, right? So people, we need about $2,500 in donations throughout the rest of the show. So get to it.
Yeah, we're chipping away at that already. We've had a few. So thank you for the donations. And
all right, cool.
Send us to Seattle?
Yes, Washington. Bellevue, Washington.
Bellevue, Washington. So you ship us there?
We only need $2,500, and probably something for the flight tickets because that is not included.
Yeah. Forget we're driving Lamborghinis right up to the office, 1 each.
Of course.
Yeah. That's it. No, but no. The thing is, Valve's Lab. If anyone has done through Steam VR, I'm trying to remember the app name. But when the Vive launched, there was this ability to take a digital tour in VR of the Valve office. Their office is sweet. They thought about that for a long time. And the giant Valve in the main reception, all the stuff that they have placed on the walls, very cool. So if you hunt that down, even if you're an Oculus user, I would recommend Steam VR Home. Track that down. I will help later if I remember what it's called. But I think Destinations is the way you get there. I think it's Destinations. And if you do try by downloading Destinations, there's some amazing volumetric work done around it's like an old British church that you step around, and it's teleport locomotion, but it's still really well done. It's like you're standing in this foggy old church grounds, and you just teleport around it, and there's some kind of an information there. Very neat, very, very neat.
Photogrammetry, it's very nice.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I find a bit strange. This is also why I said that you won't be able to play Half-Life Alyx early, because the tour must be scheduled 6 weeks in advance. So that would mean after Half-Life Alyx is released, right? Because Half-Life Alyx is coming out 23rd of March.
Somebody's trying to screw our chat donators right up the wazoo, I think.
God damn bastards. Also, all proceeds of the auctions will go directly to California's Elemental Music Program, which provides training and support to young students interested in music. The question for me is, though, which music? Because I can think of a few genres that I don't want to support. Anyway. Next bit of news, HTC.
Whoa, hang on. Before you move on, I've seen something in chat I have to say. Very simple. We don't usually interrupt like this, but we have a user who's joined Furniture Reality. Someone has gone and registered Furniture Reality, which was a little joke that I made a couple of podcasts ago, is what the F stands for, is Furniture Reality. I'm not sure if you were on that one or not, Rowdy. But,
I heard that one.
Yeah. So good on you for registering the account, whoever that is hiding behind Furniture Reality. But good on you. Good on you. Yeah. Good. All right, we'll keep going.
All right, cool. So HTC has now come out with 4 different variants of their Cosmos VR headset.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's right. 4
variants of the Cosmos.
And I still haven't found anybody who can explain to me why. I don't know. But it does bring their total of available headset packages to 11.
11.
11. It's from that video from
11.
Scottish. Yeah, 11.
But sorry, video from Scottish? I'm not following you there.
You don't know that the video about the 2 Scottish guys that trying to use voice activation in the elevator?
No. How does it go?
Okay, everyone, after the podcast, go and look up that video, and you'll laugh your ass off.
What do they look for? Scottish 11?
Say 2 Scottish guy voice recognition elevator.
Okay. I will.
11. Anyway, Zim, which one is your favorite? Is it the Vive Pro Starter Kit, the Vive Pro Full Kit, the Vive Pro McLaren Limited Edition, the Vive Pro I, the Vive Cosmos Play, the Vive Cosmos Elite, the Vive Cosmos XR, the Vive Focus, or the Vive Focus Plus? Oh yeah, and why?
What? That's nuts.
11. Yeah. Actually, it's a shame, really, because HTC started out as a very strong competitor in the VR market, maybe even like the strongest.
They were, and this is like the number one thing you don't do with a product is just make it so fucking confusing for everybody. Yeah. But now they can perfectly. Someone needs to make this content. I'm telling you, there's the perfect content. This is the content, right? You buy the 11 headsets, and at 11:11, it has to be probably in American then, because you do it just at night, right? You have to start playing 11:11 on all 11 headsets, and you must finish by 11:11 in the morning. You have 12 hours to escape the 11:11 game in 11 headsets. Can you do it? Can it be done? Only you can tell us. Make it happen.
And stream it, please.
Please stream it. Sounds like something Disrupt would do, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I should tweet them. Hey, there's 11 Vive headsets now. Here's the game 11:11. Here's the challenge. Will you do it?
And then they release the 12th one. No. The annoying thing for me is just like for a good while it was like my favorite headset. Like even though they've always been a bit more expensive, for a good while I was like a prominent Vive user. But I don't know. It seems like they're having like a little bit of hard time just like competing. It's kind of like when you hold the door open for like an older lady who's actually like a little bit too far away. So she's going to feel annoyed and it's going to start moving faster than it's good for her. That's kind of like how HTC is like doing it right now. We're like holding the door open and they're trying to like keep up and like just make more headsets. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, as I was researching Canada, one of the things, because Canadians are known to being quite polite in that, right? One of the things you're meant to do is hold the door open for people. Like if they're out in the snow or whatever, and even if they're too far away, you're meant to hold the door open. It's like, it's a thing.
But
and
the person is going to like struggle to like get through the snow still in order for you to like not feel annoyed.
Yeah, but you just have to say, come on, don't worry, Mr. and Mrs. Vive, come here. I'll let you in. But culturally, like it's a big deal if you should close the door in someone's face. So there you go. Pro tip from Zim for Canada.
Thanks for the tip.
Yeah.
All right. I think that was all for the news for this week. So I guess it's time for Zim to tell us what we probably shouldn't be playing this week.
It is funny that we've gotten there. It's like just past 7 o'clock here in the UK. I don't remember the last time we got through that bit that fast. So we should we should send these boys off to getting puppies and whatever again sometime. This is funny. Although I was saying to Rowdy, it would have been nice to show the ladies behind us. Bring his lady on, bring my lady on, but we'll see if we can ever make that work.
Yeah, sure.
All right, releases. So first on, and a game that I had fun playing before because it reminded me very much of a game that I love and know dearly. Freediver, Triton Down, the extended cut, has launched for Oculus Quest and PSVR. So that's pretty cool. I like this like simultaneous Oculus Quest and PSVR catch-up because this actually launched last May, 30th of May 2019 for PC VR. And actually it's discounted quite heavily on PC. So if you're interested in a short yet traumatic underwater experience, then Freediver Triton Down is available on PC VR for $9 or £6. On Quest and PSVR, it'll set you back $14 or £11. This is by Archiact. They've done several cool games, and in Freediver, you plunge into a capsizing research ship, the Triton, where survival means outmaneuvering the water's lethal surge. And you're basically leaking underwater. You're going down. So I'm really glad the PSVR players have gotten this along with Quest. I think it's something that will give people a nice, it's like a palate cleanser, a little taster of what Subnautica is like. I love Subnautica.
And also it's so immersive because I noticed, I haven't played it that much, but I noticed that I would be like holding my breath when I was like going underwater, like
naturally. Naturally, right? Yeah. But the funny thing is, like, and a lot of people say this, and I absolutely support this. Like in comments on both platforms, Steam and Oculus Home, people are saying to make it more immersive, because the game doesn't have you holding your breath for more than a minute, actually hold your breath when you have to hold your breath in the game. And I did that for the entire length of the game, and it's totally doable. And it makes you panic because it gives you that like I need oxygen thing. It's really.
I don't know if that's healthy though, Sim.
It's fine.
Depriving yourself from oxygen, like yeah, sure.
It's good because like even if you black out, your body will naturally fill you back up with oxygen again. I know this why because I had a high school buddy who was a bit odd, and he used to like hold his neck like this, hold his breath, and then head between his knees, and he'd pass out, and then he'd wake up again. You can't kill yourself that way. I think it's technically impossible. So
yeah, but you can kill brain cells with that, though.
You can kill brain cells with alcohol too. So people are fine with that. Everyone's got their own pleasure. Some have horror games, some have Pikachu. But yeah, Triton Down. So I played that through. It's a bit short, and I think just to put it out there, like the disappointing thing for me about the game was you don't actually get off the ship. Like that's it. Like you're just so it's like Subnautica, but you don't get to go explore the world. But as I said, like it is a good short, intense game, and if you're looking for something like that at the moment, there's nothing else like it really on Quest. So at PSVR, I'm trying to think, is there anything underwater that you can think of, Rowdy? Underwater PSVR games?
Yes. Time Machine VR.
Oh, that is so shite. Yeah, that's horrible.
I think that is on PlayStation as well.
Yeah, I do not recommend that game. The only other one that I'm thinking of is the Angry Birds kind of like teamwork simulator game. I haven't played it myself. It's the submarine one. It was like Angry Birds Submerged.
That's in VR as well?
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like, I call it the squirrel game for my kids. It's like Akron in terms of its setup. And basically you have a player in VR who's like the captain of the sub, and then you have players who are like collecting parts and stuff under the ocean. So that's another cool thing. I need to go back and play that actually. Jupiter and Mars. Thank you, gaming science teacher. That is another one where you're playing two dolphins. It's weird.
Oh yeah.
It's a weird game, that one. It's a bit like Echo the Dolphin in VR, if you know that game. That's another old one from ages ago.
PSVR Worlds, Shark Attack.
Shark Attack, good point. Yeah, good point. They're just those like Abzu, not VR. Yeah, that's not quite VR. Although it's a good looking game. I actually bought it for Switch and I don't like it. But I'm still playing through. Astrobot underwater levels. Thank you, PD. Yeah, fair enough. You got me. Rec Room Isle of the Skull has an underwater level. Thank you, Furniture Reality.
Okay, apparently all games have underwater levels.
Apparently all games.
You're wrong.
Completely wrong. This is not unlike our podcast. So, all right, next game I want to show you. This one's an artsy one, and this caught my eye. A game that's just gotten its full release. It's called Museum of Other Realities. Now, quite a good looker. PC VR and Windows Mixed Reality support on Steam. It's $20 and £15 by MOR Museum Inc. Just landed after a long beta period, 26th of February. The Museum of Other Realities is an immersive multiplayer art showcase in virtual reality. It's a space to connect, share, and experience a growing collection of mind-bending VR art with others. Step into a painting, surround yourself with fantastic sounds, experience art with your friends as it evolves and takes form. This museum contains a growing collection of interactive art and experimentation, supporting artists who are challenging and redefining what is possible with VR art. This is absolutely a blossoming space and something that I find very interesting. Steam reviewer Cyber Spoonman says, I don't write many reviews, but this is something really special. It's only an alpha in this state at the time of his review. And even though there's a limited amount of material in the galleries, you can see how amazing this idea is and where it will continue to go. For those who aren't able to see the video that's streaming at the moment, it is a really interesting selection of art. It's not just like old in the same style or genre. Very colorful. Some are like comic books. Some are like paintings.
And it's moving as well.
Yeah,
like,
it's all moving. It's far beyond tilt brush is how I would describe it. Something more like the Under Presents, interactive multiplayer environment that you can experience. And as I said, it's about $20, so not unreachable either. That one landed on PC VR and Windows Mixed Reality. So thought that was a good spot. I tend to like these things that are a little bit off the beaten path. And I found that to be particularly interesting. Actually, before we transition on, I will run one more little. There was actually a meetup about 9 months ago. A couple of the artists got together, and they got together in the museum. So they were kind of stepping through the world of some of the other artists and actually experiencing that. So I'm running a video of that just to show you like one of these things. It actually reminds me of the horror game we were talking about earlier in that kind of cell shaded experience. Lies Beneath looks a little bit kind of like that. So just wanted to give you a flavor of what it was like if you were to put the hard-earned bucks towards something a bit artsy. There you go. So that's 2 of them. We got 2 more here for you. So we're going to talk about the next one is 11 Table Tennis VR. And if you are already, you think, saturated in these kinds of games, then shame on you. Shame on you. There's plenty of room in the world for sport and good sports. So I'm gonna do a little intelligence test here with Rowdy. Let's see how he fares.
Oh no.
Marco.
Polo.
Ping.
Pong.
Now say my name.
My name?
No, it was Heisenberg, you fecker.
You said say my name, so my name.
Yeah, to be honest, in the say my name, oh my God, what am I doing? The audio listeners are like, what tangent are these guys on? You were supposed to say Heisenberg, and then I'd say, you're goddamn right? And that was a famous part of Breaking Bad later in the season. You might not know that. Maybe you haven't seen it. Yeah.
Only watch the first.
It's fine. But actually, that cheeky my name was the top comment on that video. So maybe you did win. Maybe you did. You won the internet. So what we're talking about here is a ping pong game that is now landed on Oculus Quest. It is a ping pong simulator. So very similar to other ping pong games that we've seen land. It allows you to play ping pong with people, which is nice. It works very well, haptics and all that. But I really liked the particular review on Steam. I thought I would, just lift up here. Matt Mello 88 writes, I've been on the beta version since the beginning. This is what real table tennis feels like. It's a perfect game for VR because of how immersive it is. If you have enough space, you're entirely moving around on your own on that table. The paddle is similar in weight to the controller, and that little haptic feedback when the ball hits makes it so real. But most important, the physics pull you into the game. When you get to a high level, the things you're able to do are essentially one-to-one with real life. If you're trying to decide between 11 and Racket Fury, which I'm a real fan of Racket Fury, distinguishable by the robots, he says, I would always recommend 11. It's a true simulator and some of the most impressive physics of any VR game. There you go.
I do think like Racket Fury is a very different game though compared to.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yes.
Have you played 11 on PC?
No, yeah. I mean I think the best like ping pong game that I've played was the one on Quest.
Yeah.
I forgot
That's
the
Racket
name
Fury.
of that one. Is that Racket Fury?
Racket Fury, the one with the robot, where like you're a robot and you can upgrade your look and all that. Is that it? Or maybe there's another one.
I thought I summoned a different one, but
Might be another one.
you could be right. Could be
Chat,
right.
tell us. Is there another? I think there's a third actually, but the only other one that I know is the one that's more like a racquetball simulator, Racket NX. Racket NX is amazing.
I think I meant that one.
But that's not ping pong. That's got a great
it's not.
soundtrack. It works very well online. Your players are standing next to each other, but this differs. That's more like racquetball, like when you're in a room and you're hitting a ball and then someone else is rebounding it and back and forth, back and forth. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Very good. So far we've carved through Freediver, Museum of Other Realities, and 11 Table Tennis VR. And as per Rowdy's...
I think that ping pong is also like one of those genres that just works very well for a virtual reality headset because it's like confined to like a smaller space if you're not like, a pro ping pong player. And it's just fun. And you can actually like extrapolate like those kind of movements very easily to a virtual reality headset.
Yeah. And the thing is that I found is like I used to have a ping pong table when I was growing up, and my dad was really good at it. So taught me how, and it's something that I like really bonded to my dad about. And it's like it's the one thing aside from racing that I would be like, here, Dad, have a VR headset so we can play ping pong remotely. Like I'd love to do that if he was in any way not a technophobe and could work that out, but I don't think it's going to actually ever happen. But the games do a great job of even things like a backhand slice or something like that.
Slice.
It has the ball physics worked out incredibly well that it gets to feel real like very fast. So
nice, cool.
I agree with you, but it's like one of the better buddy games. So if you have one buddy far away and you want to play a game together, it's a really, really good example of what you can do. Yeah.
Nice.
Right. So the last one, as per Rowdy's lovely intro, Bizarre Barber. We have to show you what this is all about. This game surprised me. When I sat down, I installed the game and all that. I don't usually look at games before I stream them. Yesterday, I got into Bizarre Barber. I thought, okay, I'll be standing there. I'll give some haircuts to some things, and it'll be all pretty much stress-free, kind of indie. No. The premise of the game is this, right? There are people with incredibly long necks sticking their heads out of trains that are whizzing by you. You must, under pressure and duress of several things, including like floating mines, cut their haircuts quickly, cutting pretty much every single passenger's hair as it whizzes by you, and without cutting the necks of the fellow passengers, or poking them in the eye with your gigantic scissors. Such a weird game. And they combine this all with some eclectic jazz. So, probably the first game that I can remember featuring jazz, and such a colorful palette, and such a weird...
And the music is great,
The music is great. It's like it feels like... someone found an indie band and was like, I love this band. And they're like, can you do music for my game? And that's it. And I've gone back to the dev studio who gave me a key for the game and I got to stream it. Thank you guys. And I was just like, can I have the soundtrack too, please? Because the soundtrack is on sale for $5.
Oh, smart.
And I think it's actually a really cool soundtrack. As I said, it's like, it's
hilarious. We got Commander 555666 saying that Beat Shaver would have been such a fun title.
Beat Shaver. Oh God. Now we've got another thing coming. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with Bizarre Barber. I mean, I completed the game. I obviously didn't master every level. But there's bosses at the end of certain levels, and you have to kind of like shave them like a chia pet. But otherwise, there's a whole range of things. Like I felt like Twitter was flying at me, the actual Twitter bird, a lot of the time, with a flamboyant tail. And you have to, and sometimes the birds, these are the most retarded birds ever. They're like spinning and diving up and down, and you have to cut their tails or hairs along with the passengers from the trains all at the same time. So I went through about, I think it was like 12 levels. Took me about an hour and a half to clock the game. and it's selling at the moment for $12 or about $9.29 a pound. Honestly, for that and the music in it, I think it's a fair price. But there you go, Bizarre Barber. Who would have thought
Bizarre Barber.
We'd be cutting hair in 2020? But it's like one of those games that I think you do things in VR, like as a developer, do things in VR that you can't do in another format, right? That's a great example.
Well, actually, going to a virtual hairdresser was one of my first immersive experiences when I was big into like, how's it called again? The audio...
Binaural
audio. So you would have to have like a headset or like earphones or something on there, and then you would have someone who would be cutting your hair. It's like a YouTube video as well.
It's famous. I know it.
Yeah. It's hilarious. It's one of the first time that had like such an immersive experience. It shows like, you know, what audio actually can do, having a virtual haircut.
Actually, and the thing is, those are usually done with a binaural microphone, which the way the binaural microphone is set up is it actually has a physical set of basically two ears. It's a head, and it's usually used by ASMR streamers like Rowdy. And
yes,
and they like whisper. They put a feather through the ear or whatever, you know. But the reason it works that way is because of the displacement of the microphone elements and the shape of the ears. It nearly simulates the kind of displacement and the way the audio is captured. Again, feathering across your head, because there's some delay, obviously, from one mic to the other mic. And if you do look up and listen to what Rowdy's talking about, which is the kind of virtual barbershop, it's eerie. Like, there are times in that, I remember, I think the door closes or something. Yeah. And there's sometimes, like, when he's, like, buzzing and you're like, you feel it. You literally feel it. And it's the most bizarre.
And if you want to know more about that, I think I once did a science episode on this topic as well, like on how audio works in virtual reality. So go and look that up. I don't know what exact episode number that one is, but
good.
That was
good luck finding that. Big digging. So I got a couple of other miscellaneous bits of news before we transition back to Rowdy here. So in somewhat sad news, we did hear just a couple of hours ago that Oculus declined platform launch for Crisis Brigade. And they have instead asked the developer to consider Oculus Start, which is a program that's designed for individual developers. Again, kind of more indie stuff. So that's a little bit sad. I think, again, with Mike not here this week, he's there, I'm sure, stroking a puppy, maybe cleaning up some dog doo, who knows. But I thought I would mention that one in Mike's honor, because I know he's a huge fan of Crisis Brigade.
Liked that one.
Really likes it. I like it as well, and I played it on his recommendation that you can play side-loaded on Oculus Quest. But the fact that the developers aren't able to sell the game on the platform in the right way, it's kind of funny, you know. It's weird because it's got 72K downloads. Like, that's not a small number. It's like, but I wonder, there must be some standard. It would be interesting
to know like the reason for like this kind of decline, right? Because I can't imagine it's because like they don't think it would be popular enough because the figures show that, but it must be some kind of like game mechanic or something that is in there that they don't want, or that they are not keen on.
It's some association, I bet, because in that you've got hostage situations, you're sniping people. I mean, I don't know.
But at the same time, we have Saints and Sinners where you stab people with a screwdriver in the face, like
or a spoon.
I don't.
Why aren't there forks? Why aren't there forks in Saints and Sinners? Why a spoon? Why I would not grab a spoon if a zombie was coming at me. You know, I wouldn't.
You don't know.
Yes, of course you'd be spooning. You're the guy who took one on a date, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Anyhow, you think. Okay, other piece of news here. This one I find very interesting. For those of you who are content creators like us, or those who just are developers and use the Oculus Mirror, very recently they launched a slight update to Oculus Mirror, which for those of you who don't already know, is a method that you can capture natively what you see, including the whole HUD and display through your Oculus Quest, and then you can use that with a streaming service or program to be able to demonstrate this.
That's what I use for all of my videos.
Use Oculus Mirror, yeah. I sometimes use it. I'm kind of on and off. But Oculus Mirror has had a bit of an update, so a bit of a patch. Some settings have been tweaked, some additional options have been fed out, and what I find the most interesting is actually their website has changed, and the compositor mirror is now showing something that's very interesting, and I think, Rowdy, you'll find this cool. There are gray boxes for Oculus Go and Oculus Quest on the compositor website as radio button selectors next to Oculus Rift. So they are planning to, this is what I read into this, they are planning to do something similar to what I use, which is screen copy, but establish a formal Oculus Mirror expansion that is going to support Go and Quest. Because to be honest, not that complicated, I think, to set up something like what's done with ADB and screen copy. And what I read into this is probably this quarter, because this was just updated. There's a few other details that are listed on there, including some recommendations, and gives you some like easy ways of content capture for OBS, for instance, one of the most popular things that's out there. And I think it's also interesting to say that OBS was given, they're now a, what is it, premium or a platinum basically sponsor. So Facebook is dropping money at one of the largest streaming platforms as well. That also landed this week. So it's interesting to see Oculus get interested in streaming. I'm glad about this, of course, as a creator. Making it easier and bringing those tools to the platform means we will get harmony, we'll get a toolkit that then can be used, and people can, who have the spirit to do it, instead of putting together hacky solutions like yours truly, you actually can get something, well composited, good quality, everything working hunky-dory, and then people can actually have their content sing, which I think is an important thing.
And do you know what is new in the Oculus Mirror? What the update contained, or
it was a lot of minor stuff. There were some. So for instance, FOV capabilities. I think now you have
that was
an ability.
Already there now, because I already changed.
But like presets. So like it's more guided. It's more like handheld. So slightly easier. I went through the Oculus debug tool just earlier today, and some of the features have changed. It's subtle. But it is still something, and it's showing that they care, and it is probably the first update in a year that we've seen. So I take it as a very positive one. The other thing I wanted to highlight, just in terms of releases for people who are fans of multiplayer music rhythm beat games, I know we're all waiting for beat games. I guess it's Facebook's now. Facebook's problem. Multiplayer games. Yesterday, found myself playing Synth Riders multiplayer, thanks to my friend Buck, 3131. Quick shout out to the VR Souls podcast dudes, who recommended that maybe check this out. A multiplayer update just landed. You can play with 5 people simultaneously, and it's cross-platform. So we were able to jump in together and play this game. It works a little bit like, works a lot like Airtone, actually, in the way that it actually functions, So Airtone is a bit like, I would call it, it's like you're grabbing rails, and you're like, as the rails are sliding through your hands, you're like moving and stuff, and it makes you move like an anime chick. This one is a little bit different in that there's 2 main mechanics. You basically got ball hands, like you're the dude from Static. You broke free, but you still have something on your hands, and you're smashing those balls against other colored balls as they come at you. I find it to be like a little bit faster tempo. The music is very different from what you see in like Beat Saber or Audio Shield or all of the Pistol Whip, all the audio games. It's another solid offering. Yesterday was my first time in it. I did particularly well when I played it, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. But the multiplayer, you can actually talk to one another while you're playing the track. They've even got really smart like push-to-talk features. So you don't want to just be huffing, breathing, or whatever if you're huffing into your microphone. So you can, for instance, set either trigger or grip to push-to-talk. So while you're punching things, because you don't use these buttons in the game, you can just grip, and it'll let your voice through, and you can have 5 people in a lobby. We played with a few people, and I have a funny story from all of that, which is I was doing great. I was beating the other people. One person dropped out. We had a lady join us. Lady's name was Luigi something, and she kicked my ass. And we asked the question, hey, what headset you playing on? What headset do you think she beat me on, Rowdy?
Quest?
Cosmos.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I know. We were like, someone owns a Cosmos, and you're that good at this game? It was not a proud moment.
Maybe. But I don't know. No, I was gonna say maybe the latency is better because the wireless module is more improved or whatever. Like.
Yeah, I don't know, but I guess it sings for the Cosmos that you can actually play a beat game like that and do well. So that is going to stop me.
I remember that one tweet when they were announcing when they hadn't released yet the 5 Cosmos, that they claimed to be having a better tool for tracking compared to like the inside-out tracking of the Rift and the Quest. So maybe there's some truth to that after all.
Yeah, I think it is. Sumpa says it was a joke, obviously.
Wait. Which Cosmos? Because there are 5 of them.
The standard Cosmos.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure from what she said.
The standard one.
but still, it's like it's my first time in a social VR experience running across a Cosmos in the wild, and to be bested with 5 players in a rhythm beat game, which I'm pretty good at those. I was like, my manliness took a dive there, and I can tell you again, from the lady's intonation, tone, the way she presented the Cosmos thing, wasn't a joke. If you don't believe me, go listen back to the stream from yesterday. But that was a surprise. So with that, one final piece of release news, and again, I love covering when we hear this kind of tasty, delectable information. The last one, Resolution Games, who I'm a big fan of, and most recently launched Akron, or as me and the kids call it, the squirrel game, where you play like an ant, a tree with apples and acorns and stuff, and a bunch of rowdy squirrels, looking at you, Rowdy, come and try to mess with your nuts.
Wait, what? What did I do? I didn't do that, sir.
I'm trying to jump on him here. It's my only chance. It's very romantic here in the podcast at the moment, with Nicky and Mike not here. For those wondering, these guys are not in quarantine or anything. Mike's got a puppy. Nathan's tending to something else, and we're here in a candlelit dinner scenario here. If you are listening to the podcast, there is some lovely flickering candlelight. Rowdy and I have a glass of wine we're sharing and slowly going through the podcast
got
bits.
A bottle.
Do you really?
Here?
Oh, right. Yeah. Cheers.
White wine?
Yeah, exactly. Very white. Very white. So the last bit of news is Cookout by Resolution Games has just been announced. And I love this. This is very cool. Cookout, a sandwich tale. I'm just going to read out what it says on the website because I think it gives all the information that we have about this at the moment. But I can tell you right now, I'm thinking Overcooked VR. So in Cookout, a sandwich tale, players of Resolution Games' upcoming multiplayer VR game will cook their way through a wacky and whimsical adventure that requires collaboration and communication to keep the customers happy and progress through increasingly hectic levels. Reminds me there of Bizarre Barber. But don't dish it if you can't take it, because these customers mean business. Will you have enough cooks in the kitchen to take on these wild customers, or will you bite off more than you can chew? Find out when the game goes live later this year. And so that is Cookout, a sandwich's tale.
Cookout.
I love it. I can't wait. I think it's one of the
you
more...
played that a lot with your kids as well, no? Like not this specific title.
VR
but
the Diner Duo. Yeah, I play that. I love it. So to see something from Resolution coming, I'm like, hell yes, bring it now. And undoubtedly, it feels, I don't know why, it just feels like it's going to be, Rift, Quest, PSVR. Yeah. They listed a few things there as well in terms of, your email and stuff. So really happy about that announcement. Good on you, Resolution, for giving us at least a tidbit to chew on, a morsel for us to get ready for. That's one that I'm super looking forward to. And so with that, that's the end of this week's releases and miscellaneous release-based news.
Nice. We should put all of that in the title. Like have the entire bottom of the screen like covered in text.
Sounds good, Reddy.
Anyway, Our final and main topic for today is we're going to talk a little bit about the COVID-19 related cancellations. There have been some concerns around COVID-19, the disease caused by the coronavirus. And this has caused a couple of major events on which we at least expected to see some VR stuff to have unfortunately been canceled. And first it was F8 from Facebook. Might not be the most important VR event that is there, but still, it's coming from Facebook. It's typically a place where a great deal of information is given in this conference on how Facebook sees the future for VR. And I was hoping to see something at least from Facebook Horizon or something like that. However, they have announced that important information will still be made available because the website of F8 currently states the following regarding the cancellation. So in light of the growing concerns around COVID-19, we've made the difficult decision to cancel the in-person component of F8 this year in order to prioritize the health and safety of our development partners, employees, and everyone who helps put F8 on. We plan to replace the in-person F8 event with locally hosted events, videos, and live streamed content. And I do think this is probably the right decision to make, but still this sucks a little bit because there's so much hype around like these kind of events, and not having the event actually going on will likely be, a lot less just in general. And I think if there's something that VR needs in this year, it's like a lot of hype and like a lot of build around it, especially because it's been doing so well. But yeah, there will still be a combo of like the locally hosted events, videos, and live stream content. Yeah, just okay. I guess
it's like one of those things where I think a lot of people, I mean yourself included, Rowdy, talk to people about the overhype of COVID-19 and its spread, and are people taking this too seriously? I mean, look at the impact it's having, right? We're having all kinds of, you've got cities closing their doors, transport restrictions and bans. You've got countries. Obviously, it's affecting economies.
Oh yeah,
it affects heavily the business that I work for.
My opinion on this is like it is very serious. It is a very serious virus, but it's also not more than the kind of viruses that we already know. Yeah, and I still don't like if you look at the mortality rate of this kind of virus, it's pretty much the same. Compared to influenza. I know in the beginning it was way higher because, it wasn't known. So that skews the numbers a little bit now. But the latest reports, they estimated between, the latest one that I read was 0.07%. But the other ones that are stating it's likely now to be lower than 0.05%. Of a mortality rate. So that's a fairly low number. That doesn't make it less dangerous because every year there are people dying from influenza, which has a mortality rate of roughly 0.02%. So it's still a very serious kind of disease. Yeah, but funny. At the same time, people are overhyping this. This is not for example, Ebola has an infection rate of 95 or 90%. So that's a way higher mortality rate. The mortality is so high that infection is rather difficult because people die so quickly. This is the opposite. The mortality rate is very low, which means that it will be able to infect a lot of people because it has an incubation period of 14 days as well, which makes it hard to stop it just in general. And I don't know if putting all these restrictions on there is going to help with the spread of the disease, because people are still going to shops, people are still going to travel, people are still going to do that. Yeah. So I don't know if these kind of limitations will actually prevent something that might already be inevitable because it's already spread across the world.
Agree. And the other thing is for something like this, right? I mean, it's you can only contain it for so long. And there's also the whole concept of pockets of this hibernating or being in a little, being in a little fish tank, and then one of those hopping, and then it spreads. So what's the long-term containment plan? 6 months from now, a year from now, 6 years from now.
I don't think it will disappear, but it will likely. I mean, I don't know. Of course, I don't know the future, but I think it will likely progress to be one of those diseases that will linger on for a very long time. Yeah. Much like, for example, influenza, the regular swine flu. I think it will become, and then in a couple of years' time, probably a vaccine will be developed for it, and probably people will take that as well as a flu vaccine. I don't think it will disappear, like, for example, SARS, which is also a coronavirus, or MERS is also one of them. I don't think it will disappear like those did, because, again, the infection rate seems higher, and the mortality rate is also considerably high. So I don't think that it will that easily disappear. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like, there are people now like bunkering up and like hamstring and like, I don't know. Like, I find that kind of stuff a little bit like misinformed, or like media hype rather than really true to the event, even though it is very serious. It's a world spread kind of epidemic. But at the same time, there are also other things that could be done in order to prevent this, just by informing people correctly.
And actually, this brings me to probably the in my opinion, the biggest effect. I think that again, I'm not going to blame social media, but the pervasiveness and availability of information is one of the most dangerous aspects of this. And actually, I think that this is a good. I think we got lucky. I think this is a good trial run, right? So you could have something a lot worse attacking our very netted globe. Like, our globe at the moment is, in my opinion, kind of scarily connected. You have people flying country to country all the time. If there was something a lot worse than COVID-19 all of a sudden dropped out, it's like, are we ready to prepare? Are we ready to shut down our routes, or somehow contain that? I don't know. I think this shows that we're probably not that well prepared, and there's a lot of businesses that haven't thought this thing through, And like 20 years ago, the cost of a flight, the ease of access of that information is really the only thing that's really changed dramatically in that time, because people were still flying around and transforming. But what happens is you have the supply chain that we all depend upon getting all of a sudden like ultra taxed. Because think about it this way. If you get the scaremongering of the news triggering, what's the burden that then happens on business? Because every time one of these conferences shuts, someone's losing money, or not making money, or not getting their product out there, or people aren't able to go to work and continue, turning the handle that they have been turning. And it actually causes a kind of a whole ripple effect of damage. And that's what we're seeing now. It's kind of like the dominoes are starting to fall. These events are, stopping. And is that breaking in terms of the spread of like potential epicenters for contact and for the spread of this thing actually going to have any material effect in the positive? Well, in the meantime, the news is acting like a billow for the fire, and the thing is just flaring up, and people are going to start, right? Like, if you get scared of this stuff, what are you going to do? You're probably going to go, I'm going to go stock up on, a bunch of food, or I'm going to go stock up on, that kind of thing, like what they do in advance of like a hurricane or something, but on a global scale. And we're not prepared for that kind of all of a sudden spike of supply. We're not. It's the same thing that happens to the banks about 10 years ago, is that everyone wanted to pull their money out, and the money's not there because banks have to lend that money out. Like,
it's just like the general kind of like misinformation that seems to be out there that kind of like triggers me a little bit. Like for example, I read not that long ago that 38% of Americans would not drink Corona beer anymore because they thought for some reason it was connected. I'm like what kind of like mindset do you need to have in order to do something like that? But like, I know that Corona has been struggling a little bit with like that they've seen a serious drop in their sales.
Of course they have.
Yeah. Which in a way makes sense, but at the same time, like it shouldn't, like it shouldn't have anything to do with one another.
I don't know.
It's weird that kind of stuff can like really trigger.
But that association, it's so funny. It's like, oh, it's named the same, therefore I got to stay away from it. I mean,
yeah. But at the same time, I think what people should be doing is just get the right information, and the only way to contain this is by prevention and making sure that people get informed well. So I do think that like canceling an event like F8 is probably the right decision to make at this point, because we don't know how far it's spread.
Yeah, I agree.
Once we have more information, then you can probably make a more rational decision on whether you should do it or not. But at this point in time, because we don't know, for example, I know in Italy, one person managed to infect 150 other people. So that's like an enormous kind of number. If every person starts infecting 150 kinds of people, then it'll be worldwide in no time. But at the same time, like, people shouldn't also make it more than what it actually is. Even though it's serious, it's not as serious as, like, as some people might make you believe.
On your statistic, we got a feedback from Swift and Deadly, who said, first off, that is a bullshit survey. Who exactly do you think answered that thing? And to be honest, that is exactly the kind of thing that you see on Facebook that's like totally fake news or whatever. But at the same time, sadly, and again, being half American, I was born there and grew up there. I wouldn't be surprised, but it's not just the U.S. It's just like, unfortunately, we've had a few administrations in the States that have not, let's say, reflected well on the American population as a whole. I think, we have those pockets everywhere. Every country has its people who don't fact check or think for themselves and just believe what they read and all that kind of stuff. So it's rather just a talking point, but it's a funny thing to be caught in the middle of all of this. It heavily affects me in my day job. Actually, I'm responsible in what I do outside of VR for continuity of business. So it's like it's a big deal for me. It's been taking up like half my week just preparing a couple of different sites globally for this. And it gets you thinking in a different way. Like, what do we have to do? Are we ready? Do we have the right setup? What's going to happen with people who supply us what we need from them?
I read it, by the way, on CNN. That's where I read it.
That poll on CNN?
Yeah.
Definitely
but
fake news. Are you not listening to Trump? No, sorry. But I mean,
I don't know who performed the survey, of course, but they did a survey encompassing 737 beer drinkers in the United States.
Yeah. But it's
think of it what you want.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but where do we go from here, right? So we've got a virus that's spreading, and it has a mortality rate attached to it, and people, the news agencies are going crazy with it. And the interesting thing we're seeing on YouTube, as I think Mike mentioned before, is every time you mention coronavirus, the monetization and the advertising side gets canceled basically for your video. Which, we took the design decision for this conversation to say, feck it, we're just going to talk about it openly because it's feckin' news and that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, of course.
And we're not, this isn't, the main priority of this podcast is to have open, candid conversations about topics, whether they're easy or difficult to talk about. And this one, I think people are going to be in various different modes of thinking and different modes as well in terms of maturity of the information that they've seen. Only thing that I would say as a kind of a like, hey, prime yourself. If you're a gamer and you enjoy games and you want to learn a little bit about disease and how it spreads and all that, why not? It's not a VR game, but why not go play Plague Inc.? Plague Inc. Is a game that actually the last time we were talking about the whole coronavirus COVID-19 thing, I was flashing a video of it, so you guys might have already seen a little bit. But it's available on mobile devices. I actually played it 3 weeks ago, so sorry guys, I might have kicked off this whole disease thing. But you start off and you basically try to design a biohazard of some nature, some virus, and then you work on it, you upgrade your virus, and it spreads country to country, and you end up trying to kill the planet. But the cool thing is the infection rate, the mortality rate, the kind of effect of vaccines from certain countries, the shutdown of travel, like all of that is simulated in this game. It's quite an old game. I think it's from even the 90s originally, but a very famous game and fun to play. And I think you would be able to, educate yourself a little bit in some of the terms. And I got to be honest, having played that game, and our company is a global corporation, and I've received a lot of very interesting kind of fact sheets and stuff like that from our analysts out in Asia. And it's like very interesting to see those curves now, like in real life, about something that's actually happening, and kind of taking that understanding and mirroring the two. So to me,
they actually banned it in China.
They banned what?
Plague Inc. they took it from you're not allowed to play that game anymore.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they do that with European and American markets. Like, this is the thing. People are like worried about the hype engine causing damage, and I think that's the right thing, a right way of thinking. I'm afraid because
they're just scared that everyone is going to move to Greenland, I think.
Let's go find an island. Like, let's go move to Madagascar or something.
But I think the real danger is in, like, you know, what is going to happen with this virus? You know, what is this virus going to become? Like, is it going to become like a, you know, a worldwide spread epidemic? Is it going to turn into something like SARS and going to disappear eventually? Is it going to go more like swine flu, or is it going to mutate into something that is, you know, even more dangerous than it already is? Like, I think that's what. The reason why they're trying to do so much prevention, because, you know, the more people get infected, the more chance of mutations as well.
Yeah.
So I think that is where, of course, you know, again, like, these are all like kind of scenarios that are doom scenarios that will time will tell. That's the only thing I can say.
Yeah.
But in the end, F8 got cancelled, and also now GDC got cancelled after Microsoft, Unity, Epic, Amazon, Facebook, and Sony all pulled out, and they also released a statement. However, interestingly enough, GDC did not mention COVID-19 in any kind of form, which makes me think that this is rather due to the partners that are pulling out, rather than that they want to do, you know, something about trying to prevent the spread. It's probably because there were a lot of people pissed that they paid so much money for a ticket and then all of the major partners would not be there. But they do fully intend on hosting a GDC event later in the summer. So there's that. They also provide refunds for those kind of people. And I believe even if you booked a hotel in the conference location itself, you'll be able to get a refund too. But flights and anything that is booked outside of that center,
of course,
is going to be refunded.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So again, it's like, you know, people are traveling less, and stores are, you know, lighter. Some people have noted that, like, malls and things like that are seeing, you know, less footfall. It's just the effect of this, and it's really the kind of business impact of this kind of news dropping that's the real effect of something like this. But I think there's some positives. So positives are, you're thinking through the scenarios and you're getting prepared. Positive is people turn to virtualization. So for meetings and things like that, like our company, right? We got travel restrictions on all these different countries where you can't travel into or out from. And generally, people are now using video conferencing. And actually, if you want to get a more, you know, realistic kind of environment to hang out with people, I think, you know, that it's a shame that right now there aren't business tools available for people to connect in virtual reality and have those meetings, you know, and connect with people, suppliers or whatever, in a more present way when you can't fly there and have a conversation in person. Because there really isn't anything to replace, like, human-to-human contact, but at least VR does a good job of, like, stepping towards that. Like, webcams really don't completely do it. Do it, you know?
That's true. Also, like, a little bit of good news that I read regarding the virus itself is that I believe they already managed to identify one of the transporter units, and that it was linked or the same transporter unit as it was in SARS. So it's likely that there is like a link between the two kind of viruses, which will of course help research a lot because it will help them understand the mechanism of causing it.
You're gonna have to help break that down for me, simpleton Zim here. When you say transporter, what do you mean? Is it like you know, like that's the carrier on which?
Yeah, it's in that kind of like scenario that I imagine as well. I'm no virologist by any means, but like a virus has a certain profile or a certain mechanism of like how it infects or what it does to you.
Yeah.
And if parts of that mechanism match other viruses, then it can be categorized into like a certain method of action.
Got it. Okay.
Like, for example, you have a coronavirus that is like SARS, MERS, and now this one as well, which, by the way, is called, I think it's called SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-2. I think that's how the official virus is named.
Okay.
Because COVID-19 is the name of the disease that it causes. It's not the name of the virus, actually.
We're getting proper scientific now. Nearly dovetailing into a rowdy science.
Yeah, no. We're not going to. I just read up on it a little bit today.
Yeah, it's funny.
But yeah, that is a good thing, because I think the best thing that people can do right now is just take your precautions. Don't do anything drastic like bunkering in or hamstring. I don't think that will help in any way. But wash your hands, avoid physical contact if unnecessary, and
no sex with strangers. Please reduce the amount of sex with strangers.
You can do as much as
go to town. No, I actually think that a couple of the things that I heard, which are interesting tips, but again, we got these globally and I think they're kosher. One of them is not to allow your esophagus, your throat, to dry out. So drink water regularly, so that apparently the virus, the airborne aspect of it, if it's stuck to the back of your throat, basically, and you wash it down, it'll be killed by the bacteria in your stomach. That was tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to self-analyze whether or not you have been infected. It's a breathing test where you breathe in for 10 seconds, you hold your lungs, and if you feel like a stickiness in your lungs, what do they call that? Metastasis, I think. Maybe I've got the wrong.
Metastasis.
No, I think I've got the wrong term. Sorry, I've got the wrong term. But basically, like the hardening of the lungs. So you won't feel like your lungs being soft and pliable after 10 seconds holding your breath. And if you notice that, then you should get yourself checked out. That's one of the other tips that we were informed globally. So yeah, again, I don't know if it'll help anybody. The only other thing that I would say, because I've been in this situation before, I was in London when we had the grounding of all the planes related to the ash that went into the clouds because of the Greenland volcanoes that it triggered, and then all the planes were grounded. The problem, like what we had in 2008 with the banks, where, again, people are like, oh, the banks are blowing up, let me go get my money. And then the banks are like, well, we don't have all your money to give, because that's not how banking works. Usually they hold, 10%, 50% of that, like, in cash, and then the rest they're working with, right? So everyone's drawing their money out, and then the banks are like closing their doors, like, you can't have your money because we don't have cash to give you. And it caused this whole problem. We could have that with a supply chain for food if people go really nutty. So the only thing that I would say is, keep some food around. Don't empty your fridge completely. Like, just be smart. I don't say like go fill up a warehouse, but at the same time, just be intelligent and just keep an eye on what people's behavior is, because people's behavior and the kind of pervasiveness of information traveling is probably the biggest threat out of all of this for the moment. Until we hear more.
And I still think if you want to be careful, when you come in, you wash your hands. Before you eat, you wash your hands. Just do those kind of things after physical contact. Wash your hands, and I think that's the most you can do.
After a podcast, wash your hands.
You always need to wash your hands after this podcast.
And your ears and certain parts of your body.
Hands above the table.
Hands above the table. Oh man!
All right, but yeah, I think this is a good point to finish this one off. I think we covered all of the week's news. We talked about the cancellations of GDC and F8, the XR2 headset, the 11 headsets from HTC, the acquisition from Sanzaru Games, as well as the update to the Oculus Link. So if there's any questions still remaining, it is the time to drop them now in the chat while I still go over the showtimes. So this is a VR, AR, and MR talk show that is live streamed every Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. You can tune into the show live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. You can also check out the audio version, which is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Spotify. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or smash that like button, as it would really help us out. So, questions?
Let's see, what do we got? Well, Watto said, damn it, shook my car dealer's hand twice today. Twice? Why would you shake
why?
Twice? That seems odd.
There's something going on there.
Now, I really do think that bunkering in, and not maybe the way Rowdy mentioned it, but like, it's a good excuse to stay home and play some VR, get those games done. You got Asgards or Saints and Sinners or
I fully support that.
Skyrim. You know, if next month we're all just stuck at home, I'm finishing Skyrim, dudes. I'm gonna do it. You know, if the internet goes down, you know, I'm gonna get a butcher knife and just start slaying everybody down the street. That's all. Skyrim taught me well, and so did Saints. Anyway, when will Pistol Whip release on PSVR? No clues. Somya? No idea on that one. Frederick Simmons says, taking bets on this. How long before someone takes this virus, changes it a little, so it doesn't change much, but it's no longer detectable, then releases it at another unstable time? This is another thing that we didn't talk about, but I'm kind of interested in thinking about. It's like, okay, was this biological warfare? Like, did this escape from a lab? You know, or is this, how do you know this is or isn't? Is there any, I need a virologist in here. We need to get a virologist in here to say so. But like, the way I think about it, as I said before, is like the world is really heavily connected right now. Like flights, people flying everywhere, you know, relatively open borders. And I don't think that should change. But I do think that, you know, if some mad man or woman out there is designing a bioweapon, like it's not a nice thing to think about. But, it's a scary future if that was ever to happen to us all. But thank God it's not the bubonic plague, you know what I mean? Because that was nasty shit.
I was about to say, if someone would want to use this as a bioweapon, I think they would make the mortality rate a bit higher.
Well, no, yeah, exactly. Which is why I actually think that this is a good test of our preparedness. Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of it's one of those themes that like you don't really want to have to talk about it. You would love to just stay in VR and forget
I'm not
about
experiencing those kind of things, so I can't really comment on those kind of things. But I mean, there are probably several things that I could like. I would have serious questions about like some like conspiracy theories like that, because what's often with these kind of like conspiracy theories is that they're a little bit too fantastic. Yeah. I don't know. Not an expert on that.
Yeah, well, I don't think this one is, but it was more about like. You know,
if they would modify it, but it's really not that easy to do that.
No, yeah.
I mean, it is easy to modify a virus, but into a way that it would turn into like. Well, I'm not an expert again.
I was gonna say these are gamers listening. A lot of them, they like challenges. One or two of them might be psycho.
I don't want to challenge anyone.
I will make it in my lab. Just tweak it, give it hairy legs and wings, and fly, my monkeys, fly. Right, and with that. Rip monetization. I agree. FReality. Thank you for the.
I do for one thing that the reason why we're seeing much more of these kind of like viruses, it has to do with bats.
With bats.
Bats.
Fucking Batman. I knew it.
No, the reason why that is because especially in like countries like China, where you have a lot of like overpopulation. The natural habitat from the bats is often very close to the human environment. And because humans keep on expanding, we keep on going into their natural environment, they become much more into contact with humans than that they do. And the thing about bats is that they have a higher body temperature. So they have a body temperature of 41 degrees, which is about the same as what we have when we have a very high fever. A lot of the old viruses that we used to have, when we started getting feverish, it was a body reaction in order to kill the virus. But because these viruses are bred into bats, which have a body temperature of 41 degrees, our temperature can't go that high in order to kill the virus, which means that it can actually survive the fever. And that is one of the reasons why we see more and more of these like heavy resistant super bacteria, super viruses actually coming up. And it actually has to do with bats. And the natural habitat of bats.
God damn it. I love you, Rowdy. What a fucking... Love this guy. Love this guy. All right. Likes if you liked it. And we'll see you next week when we got our buddies back. So
indeed.
Thanks everyone for joining what has been an absolutely lovely duo with my main man, Rowdy.
All right. See you all next week. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.